I've always been drawn to details, the curve of a letter, the weight of a line, the space between things. Sometimes that attention becomes something else. Perfectionism. This week I've been working on a font, but not just any font, one built from my own handwriting, the same handwriting I use in my illustrations, the same one that found its way onto my oracle cards. These cards have just sold their foreign rights to France and possibly Italy, which feels surreal. Something that began as my handwriting is now learning to speak other languages. Turning my handwriting into a font has meant making decisions, but how perfect is too perfect? Does making each character more perfect, more consistent, take away from my hand-drawn, quirky approach? The more time I spend on a single curve, trying to make something I have painstakingly created feel effortless on the page, ends up, of course, taking even more effort. So the more I strive for perfection, the more I realise it's just not perfect. I've lost the quirkiness, I've lost that perfection, those haphazard lines, spilled ink and blots. My perfect is imperfect. And it has thrown up a few issues because I have hand-drawn wording within my original artwork. As I have a publishing background, I really should have thought this through more, but I love including hand-drawn text within my art, and this was a passion project, but it makes it much more difficult to translate into other languages. If I work on another deck or project that has potential to be published in another country, I will definitely have to think about this more carefully next time. As it happens, the French publisher has decided to keep the original text and emphasise that this was how the original artwork was created. Tincture of toad, digitalis, dead sea salt, bone dust, a wish, rainbow dust. All these cards make up my Alchemist Oracle deck, and my handwriting was a huge part of its creation. I made this deck during a difficult time in my life, and I have to say it was definitely a form of art therapy, a way of rewiring my brain to think positively and embrace all the good things in my life. And I hope that it impacts those that use it in a positive and fulfilling way too. It wasn't until I sat in front of my iMac that I realised trying to design an actual font just wasn't for me. The perfectionist in me was just screaming that this isn't for you. Seeing my lettering all lined up in a rigid way at uniform heights was just too perfect. A contradiction, I know. But it's a seemingly haphazard way I create my lettering and its eclectic arrangement, how I wrap it around my artwork, that makes it perfectly imperfect. And then the universe sent me a little reminder that things don't always go to plan, and life just isn't perfect. The Beetle had a hiccup. My mind immediately jumped to the worst case scenario. Expensive, inconvenient, my ruined plans. But that's what perfectionism does. One small thing means everything is broken. But it wasn't serious. It was a small fix, a quick phone call, and we were on our way again. In fact, it was so simple, I probably could have fixed it myself. I just didn't have faith that I could. So my engine wasn't ruined, my day definitely wasn't ruined, nothing catastrophic in fact had happened at all. It was just a little hiccup. And Olive, my Beetle, reminds me every day to enjoy the journey, and not just focus on the destination. Taking a break and taking some time outdoors can really put things in perspective. I realise how quickly I can assume the worst. If a curve of one of my letters feels wrong, suddenly I think the whole font is a failure. If I paint something that's too dark or make a mistake, I realise I'm ready to abandon it entirely. But perhaps it only takes a small adjustment or a little change. Nothing is actually that much of a disaster. So if I can take one thing from this week, it's that not everything that flashes red is a crisis, not every imperfection is a failure. In fact, sometimes you just need to take a break, and when you go back to things, the imperfect may just have the perfection you are looking for. So even though perfectionism will always live in my head, I know that my font doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be mine.